Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Today we continue to discuss about the Four Noble Truths that were the first ever teaching that the Buddha provided to the first 5 months. So we know that in general, these Four Noble Truths includes the truth of suffering, the truth of the cause of suffering, the cessation or the ending of suffering, and last one is the path to end the suffering. So again, for the truth of suffering, it includes the physical sufferings as well as the mental suffering. So here we see that birth, aging, death, that's are the compositions of the physical suffering, that we were born, we getting older, we have some kind of illnesses, and one day we have to go. No exception, regardless of who we are. And on the top of that, we have the mental sufferings, emotional sufferings, like sorrow, lamentation, pain, distress, desperate, associated with the one that we don't love, and we separate from the lovely one, not get what we want. So in general, those are the mental sufferings that we encounter every day of our life. And that's the truth that no one can escape. But if we know how to apply the Buddha teachings, we can transform them. And that's why, as a doctor, at first the Buddha point out these subtractions and sufferings, so that we can recognize them instead of running away from them. So that's why when the Buddha was a prince, he recognized those signs. When he stepped out of the palace, he saw a old man, a sick man, and a dead man or a corpse. At that moment, he recognized that no matter how long he enjoyed his life in the palace, but one day he has to go like other people. And on the top of that, later on, after his attainment of enlightenment to become a Buddha, he recognized on the top of the physical suffering, there are all types of mental sufferings. And now we can put in our modern terms, the stress, anxiety, depressions, worriness, you name them. So there's all kind of suffering that we have to deal in the daily basic. So without understand those things, it's not easy for us to recognize and transform them. So let us watch some video clips about some of the common mental disruption problem that we are dealing with. So let me make a copy of this link, and I'll show you here. Okay, right here. Again, the sadness, the depressions, and so forth, they are so prevalent and happen to every one of us uh, in our daily life. So without uh, the recognition, there's no way for us to accept and move on. So that's why we need to recognize them in order to deal with them properly. Okay, let me show you another clip about uh, the stress and anxiety. Okay, so please be with me. Okay, here. Yeah, let me share the screen with you so you can have some idea. Okay, so here's a short clip about the difference between stress and anxiety. Again, so those are the emotions that we encounter and deal with them in every instant of our life. So that's why we need to address, we need to pinpoint and recognize them so that we can accept and move on. Otherwise, if we try to stay away, or if we try to ignore them, the problem is still there. Let me show you another clip that relate to our emotions. Again, with this clip, we recognize we have some kind of feeling anger. We don't know how to express, feeling hurt. We don't know how to express ourselves. Um, and hearing the voice or seeing things other tell that we are not here. That means we don't pay attention much for what's happening. Mm. Or we have the feeling that we lost consciousness, a feeling as we're going to be pain and experience emotion with no known cause or trigger. We have some emotion that we don't know what's happening. We don't know what cause of those problems. But we have the experience that we have the frequent emotional outbursts that we can control. We cannot control our emotion. We just burst out our anger. Mm, we feel sad. We feel angry. We feel depressed most of the day of the week. It's all kind of emotional fluctuation within our mind. So that's what happened. It's still hard for us to accept our own emotions. So this clip that pinpoint what's happened, what's the problems with our emotions, with our mentality. And again, this is the modern term that we could recognize in our life. And of course, in the Buddhist term, is say relate to the mental disruptions, mental sufferings that we have to deal uh, in every instant of our life. So there's all kind of problems that we have to deal. So that's why the Buddha mentioned we need to pinpoint, we need to recognize them in order to transform them. If we don't accept or recognize them, uh, if we just ignore them, the problem is still there. But as much as we recognize, we see the root of the problems, and we may uproot them. We may uh, transform them. Otherwise, without acknowledgement, without recognitions of those problems, uh, the problem is still there, and eventually we have to deal with them. But somehow in our daily life, most of the time we may not have much time to think about them. Even when we encounter them, we still try to ignore and run away instead of facing them. So that's why, as a doctor, the Buddha reminds us that we need to face with those kind of problems, the physical problems and mental problems, physical sufferings, mental suffering. Physical suffering, yes, like illnesses, like aging, that has happened to every one of us. Even in unborn child, still have some kind of illnesses. And of course, every one of us, we have some kind of illnesses within our body. And but of course, when we sick, we would visit doctor to take the medicine, or if we visit the hospital to have some kind of treatments. But of course, when we up to 100 is and above, there's no medicine could sustain our physical body at all. So again, uh, for the mental sufferings, we may have a chance to transform them if we know how. So the next step, the Buddha wants us to recognize is the cause of suffering, the reason why we suffer. So at first, the Buddha point out the problems. It's like the doctor who point out the illnesses that we have. And the next step, the doctor may remind us the reason why we have that type of illnesses. For example, stomach aches, or headache, and so forth. So without knowing the cause, there's no way for us to deal with them. to have the proper treatment. That's why, as a doctor, the Buddha point out the cause of suffering, the reason why we suffer. So that is what come to the next one, the second noble truth, the cause of suffering. So basically, the Buddha summarized the causes of suffering uh, in uh, some categories like craving, anger, and stability. So the Buddha mentioned that because of them, we suffer mentally and physically. And the Buddha consider the attachment of craving, um, the aversion or anger, uh, mm, the hatred, um, plus the stupidity or the ignorance. They are considered poisons that harm us physically and mentally in every instant of our life. So uh, let's recognize, especially when we are angry with someone else, with something else. So the Buddha reminds us that when we have that kind of negative thought toward other people, it's like we swallow the poison. And when we have the craving too, we have too much craving, we would burn ourselves. We would harm ourselves and others. So that's why the Buddha classifies themselves as the poison that we uh, encounter, we have to deal in our daily life. So let me show you a short video clips um, that one psychologist mentioned about the definition of greed, so that you can recognize why greed uh, is so harmful for us. And so let me show you uh, this video clips. Okay, you see that um, one of the reasons that we have the greedy mind, according to this psychologist or professors, that we never feel enough. And actually, that's a thing the Buddha mentioned in many of his teachings, that because of that kind of feeling, the feeling of dissatisfaction, we craving for something else. we're greedy for something else that fulfill that kind of need, or fulfill that kind of emptiness. So that's why somehow with that kind of feeling, we never feel enough for ourselves, regardless of things we want to. So, for example, we crave for sexuality, for sexual desire, for emotions, uh, for passion with other people. So the Buddha give analogy that like we drink the water from the oceans, we would not satisfy ourselves with that cup of water. The more we drink, the more thirsty we are. So that's why um, the more we involve in those kind of sensuality, passion, the more we feel dissatisfaction, uh, insufficient. So that's related to sensuality, passion, and even the food. If we get stuck with mm, food, we have obsessions with food. Again, we the more we eat, we would not feel enough for ourselves, and that's why we have that kind of problems. The problem of obesity, uh, that kind of problem with our physical body, how we look in front of other people. Uh, so again, with that kind of problems, we need to recognize. So let me share you the short video clips about some harm because of that type of uh, obsession of food. We cannot control ourselves in front of them. And in psychological terms, it's called the binge eating disorder. Let me share you these video clips so that we can recognize the problems that we are dealing in our daily life. Okay, let me share the screen. Okay, you see that no matter what happened to our mind, no matter what type of disorder or sufferings, what happened into our mentality uh, or into our life, we need to recognize them. For example, in this case, binge eating disorder. So as much as we recognize, accept, uh, them as the way they are, we would find the help from doctors, from healthcare professionals, or even uh, from within ourselves that we need to recognize through our mindfulness practice, awareness about disorder or of our sufferings. So again, um, like a psychologist or doctor, the Buddha point out that kind of problems, that kind of cause that bring the suffering to ourselves. So binging eating disorder is one of the problems, not because of the food, but because of the craving. It's because of the addiction that we have to deal with, that we cannot uh, mm, know how to control, and that's why it become a habitual patterns, or what we call now again addiction. uh, like different types of addiction too, like alcohol addiction, that someone just stuck with alcohol, they could not get away, or someone who had problems with gambling, and for example, they could not get away from those habitual patterns or addiction, and has go beyond their control. And that's why as much we recognize and uh, and try to deal with them, that's much better, because without the first step of recognition, there's no way for us to accept what happened uh, to us. So again, let me show you a short video clip about uh, the gambling problems that some of us may have to recognize uh, mm, before we move on to seek help from some professor, or healthcare uh, professions, or doctors, psychologists, and so forth. Let me show you this short video clips one more times. Okay, so you see that again, gambling is one of the problems that happen to everyone. So as much as we build up that type of addiction, we get stuck. And of course, we have the thought of winning. We hope that we will win the games in every games we play. But of course, it would not like that way. Especially when we go to casino to play, most of the time we be loser. So anyway, so gambling is one of the addition that relate to the craving for getting money without going out to work. Um, we have the addition of alcohol. Uh, some I've heard people they have the kind of addiction that they could not get away because of that kind of chemicals that have impact on their physical and mental beings. So again, they craving for those things so that to the point that's uncontrollable. And so that's why the Buddha mentioned that we need to recognize those kind of problems so that we can uh, transform those problems. Otherwise, without recognition, without acceptance, with those things, there's no way for us to deal with them. So in general, the craving for money, the craving for wealth, the craving for food, the craving for anything that would bring us the suffering. So, for example, the one who think about money, whichever thing they do, money is always in front of their eyes, inside their mind. Let's say if they see a chair, see a table, and so forth, they may think, oh, I can make profit for selling this chair, selling these tables, and so forth. And that is in the low levels. In the high levels of society, uh, people in corporation that may be greedy to get more profit when they do business. They would design invent some things that may get mm, rich quick, or they may scam other people to get other people monies. So that's because of their greedy mind of wealth. So we know there's some hacker, there's some scammers. They hack uh, onto the computers of all people to get other people credit cards, personal information, so that they can use them in the illegal way. The scammer they call around to scam people money, especially the elderly people. So because of greed, and of course at the corporation levels, some company they don't care much about the environmental issue, like the oil companies. They would drill the oil mm, so that they could get more profit, and they may not pay much about the pollution and the air, about pollution on the ground, and so forth. Or even there's some companies, um, they are so greedy that they may not care much about the hardship of their employees. They just try to force their employees to work overtime so that they can have more profit, or they may have more product to sell. So here's the image of people. They always think about money. They eat money. Actually, of course, they could not eat money, but that's the analogy of the regime for wealth. And whichever thing they think is about money. So they hungry of money, uh, similar as they hungry for food. So those kind of problems that we need to recognize. And that's why the Buddha reminds us that greed is one of the cause that um, brings suffering to ourselves. For example, even if we work for someone else in the company, if we mm, try to cheat our times of coming to work, so that's the form of greedy mind that we want. Let's say instead of come on time to work, we may come late and leave the companies early. And such a way we cheat ourselves. We cheat other people about the timings that we work in. Of course, instead of working from 8 to 5, we may come to the companies uh, about 8:30 or 9. We may leave early about 4 or 4:30, and but we uh, mm, say that we work from 8 to 5. That means we cheat our companies about timings of working because of the greedy mind. And uh, on the other hand, again, like I mentioned recently, the manager, supervisor, try to force the employees to work hard, to work overtime without paying, so that their employees would produce more products for them to sell on the market. So that's a form of the greedy mind. And for even for students, if they don't study hard but they cheat on the test, that's another form of greedy too. So in life, it's all kind of problems with the greedy mind that we need to recognize. Otherwise, if we don't recognize them, we would try to hide, uh, and of course, we would encounter the problems later on. Again, now we see when we have the greedy mind, when we expect things that may go beyond our ability to do, that may go beyond our merit, a blessing. That's where we bring sufferings. For example, a student walk into the room to take a test, and if they have too much expectation on the test, let's say if they expect that they would get an A on that test, but what happened when they receive the test back from their professors, and somehow the results probably they mm, could get a B or C. That's why they so frustrated, because the expectation is to receive an A, but now the grade is only B or C. That's why they suffer. So that's why I used to remind my student that when you're taking a test, don't expect anything. Of course, at first, you need to study hard to prepare for those tests. Mm, but when you walk into the room to take a test, don't expect anything. You try your best to work on that test without any expectation, and whichever result or outcome um, that you would get later on, you would make peace with yourself. Otherwise, the more expectation you have, the easier for you to be frustrated if things uh, mm, don't come along to your wish, if things go against your wish. So again, expectation is one of the form of greed, of desire. That's why the Buddha say that we need to recognize that's root the problems. The reason why we suffer because we expect things too much from ourselves, from other people. Like parents, if they expect the children to be successful in school, to be successful in life, But what happened if they could not get the good grade as the parents expect them to do so? Yes, both of them would have the consequences, as mean they suffer. So there's a story. A few years ago, there's one mm, girl when she was living with their parents. She mm, uh, try her best to study because of her parents' pressures. Her parents always expect her to be the top list in the school, but somehow she didn't pay attention much, or she didn't pay much time, spend much time to study. But somehow every day she pretend to go to school. Actually, she just went to the library, and of course she would go home at the same time as other children get home. And when it's time for her to graduate from high school, of course she could not, because no one would give her diploma without passing the test or without starting. So she found some way to get the fake high school diploma, and she told her parents that she would go to some famous college and university. Of course, because of her parents are immigrants, so they would not know much about educational system here in the United States. So they just accept that. But later on, somehow she made a scam to kill them. So it's very tragic. It's very sad for that case. But again, because of the pressure of the parents, many children suffer, especially in Asian communities. And so that's why I suggest to the Asian parents that just let your children to pick up the major of studying that they really like, so that they can move forward in that type of studying or learning. Don't give them the pressure. Don't expect them to become doctor, engineer, nurse, and so forth. Just let them to be who they are. Just let them to have the freedom to choose their subject of studying instead of impose some rules or give them some kind of pressure for them to study. Again, mm, expectations is one of the form of desire that bring the suffering to ourselves and others. Okay, so time is up. Let me stop here today, and I will come back and continue to discuss this second noble truth, the cause of suffering, the next time. Thank you. Nam mô Shakya Muni Buddha.